following video is totally biased as my name's written on the thing I'm reviewing, the Adam A7X. My name's Adam, so I'm clearly going to think they're the best studio monitors for around $1,000. In all seriousness though, I do think these are the best. That's why I chose them. I didn't just choose them because my name's written on them. I chose them because they are the best. They're the best studio monitors for around $1,000 or £1,000. That approximate price sort of bracket range thing. Let me explain. So I choose monitors and I choose headphones based on what I consider to be the industry standard. I don't want to take any risks. I don't want to take any risks on the sound quality or the durability, and that's what I really care about. I mean, there's a few things I like in addition to that. Things like having the power buttons on the front. On my old studio monitors, the Tannoy Reveal 601As, the power was on the back. It's surprising how much that becomes annoying, just having to reach around the back to turn things off and on. It sounds silly, but it makes a big difference having the power button on the front. Also, the volume controls, actually more of a gain control. You probably want to use the volume on your sound card as a volume, although it's nice to be able to just simply turn it or turn both of them down, boom, really quickly if I want to say reference on headphones or reference on different monitors. Not to mention there's some great details in here, such as, for example, it snaps to 0, which so it sort of snaps into that 0 position, which the Tannoys don't or didn't. They still don't. It's all those little details that can make a big difference. But anyway, in the grand scheme of things, that's not why I bought these things. I bought them because they're, well, at least I consider them industry standard. They're a safe bet. These, for example, the Sennheiser HD650s, again, they're an industry standard. They're a safe bet. At that price point, you can't go wrong with them. As are these for DJing, the Sennheiser HD25s and even the Beyerdynamic DT77, not sure if you can see them or not down there. These, the DT770 Pros, the Beyerdynamics, which not for DJing, but they were my old production headphones. All of these are basically industry standard. They're a safe bet because so many thousands and thousands, because so many people have used them and so many experts and all the people that would know rate them as being the best pretty much at that price point. You know you can't go wrong, and that's what I look for in a monitor. That's what I look for in a headphone. As remember, each set of monitors and each set of headphones will sound slightly different, and there's no correct. They're just different, but at least if I go for an industry standard, I know I'm going to be in the right ballpark. And because they're so tried and tested, I know there's not going to be any fundamental problems. I know for at whichever price point you jump in at, there's not going to be any fundamental issues with distortion or weird resonances or anything like that, or build quality. Again, they've also been out for a while, so I know there's no build quality issues. These are what I look for in studio monitors, and that's why I concluded these are the best studio monitors for around $1,000. You can read all the tech specs you want, but until people have used them, you just don't know if they work properly. You don't know if they'll work as described in the press releases and the marketing information. So whilst yes, that can be nice to look at and fun, I go off user reviews and expert reviews. There are a handful of people in the world that review these things full time, the sound on sounds of the world. People that literally spent their entire careers just trying all this stuff and testing it all. So I defer to their judgment as well as the combined wisdom, the wisdom of crowds of user reviews. And certainly in the headphone and studio monitor space, there are plenty of review websites. Simply type it in Google. Whoa, did you hear that? Crazy wind action. Oh yes, so the next point is, so these are about $1,000 roughly, the Adam A7Xs. My old main studio monitors were the Tannoy Reveal 601As. They're probably maybe $300 or $400, say $400 for the set, so less than half price. There's a big difference in sound between the A7Xs and these ones. So for those people maybe in a similar position, maybe you have Rocket 5, 6s or something along those lines, so same ballpark as these, you will see a big difference jumping to the next price point upwards, which, I mean, I was hoping for, but it wasn't guaranteed. Going from the Beyerdynamics DT770 Pros to the Sennheiser HD650s, there wasn't a big difference. I mean, these HD650s are more than twice the price of the DT770 Pros, both industry standard safe bets. And yet there wasn't a big difference in, well, at least I didn't notice a big difference in quality. There was a small difference, but not a big difference. Certainly not the difference going from these to these. I mean, yes, these are slightly bigger, but they're not a lot bigger, and they're still in the same rough ballpark in terms of size of thing. We're not going from that to gigantic, crazy big studio monitors like this. It's still in the same ballpark. But anyway, this brings me on to an important point that I think you can't ignore when talking about these sorts of things, especially if you already have studio monitors and maybe you're considering upgrading. You've got to think about why you're doing this. You've got to think about what you're trying to achieve when you get a new set of speakers or a new set of headphones. Are we recording? Yes, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to hear the cleanest possible representation of your sound? Or are you trying to hear what? Are you trying to hear your sound in an enjoyable way or in an inspiring way? Or as I say, are you trying to hear it in the cleanest possible sense? Are you trying to hear most accurately what you're creating so you can then make good decisions? Or are you trying to hear things in maybe the way the end user might be listening to things, or somewhere in between the two? Maybe you want to hear a clean representation of the sound, but with a bit of inspiringness, a bit of that spark that an end user might experience it with. Because if you take, for example, am I going to go all the way around? I'm going to go all the way around. I'm going to go all the way around. Full 360 spin. If I take these, my HD650s. They're extremely uninspiring. I can hear crazy amounts of detail, arguably to a fault sometimes. I can sometimes spend time fixing things that almost nobody else can hear. So I'm hearing an extremely clean representation of the sound with these, but they're extremely uninspiring as a result. For a start, they're so flat and so detailed that things can just sound bad. So if I'm, say, working with a sample that isn't great quality objectively, so there's not a lot of fidelity, then I can sometimes be put off when I listen to these. And then when I listen to the same sample through a laptop speaker or through studio monitors, it sounds great. And so all of a sudden I sort of judge myself for discarding the sample, as most people aren't listening to music through these. So it can be a bit confusing sometimes to work with this. Focus multiplier, on my point. So if you want to hear the cleanest representation of the sound, you need to use headphones, and there's no getting around from that. If you want to hear the most detailed, accurate representation of the audio file you're creating and not get sort of influenced by any other factors, you need to use headphones. That's just fact. I mean, think about it. In fact, this will blow your mind. I mean, this next thing I'm going to do will blow your mind. Now, you'll probably know, yeah, we are recording. You'll probably know at this stage, if you're watching this video, that the room you listen in affects how you hear the sound. Where you place the speakers in the room, what's in the room, do you have acoustic treatment, do you have other stuff in the room, how big the room is, you know that affects the sound in some way or another. You know that when the sound comes out of the speakers, or the monitors, if you want to call them those, you know when the sound comes out, it bounces around the room and then goes into your ear. The sound goes into your ear, but it also bounces around the room. You know that, but you probably don't know how much. You might not know to the extent of which this happens. I mean, you might know for the bass. Hopefully you know that, for example, you can't mix low end or bass pretty much at all just off studio monitors, because the room completely changes how the bass is represented. I mean, for example, if you literally move your head from here to here, the bass can go from sounding way too, so the sub bass level can go from sounding way too loud to literally not there at all. So just moving your head that much can completely change how you'd mix low end, because of the way it bounces around the room. So you should know for mixing bass, you have to use headphones, as if the sound's just with headphones, it goes straight into your ears and there's no room to interfere. However, you might not realize that everything experiences this. So here's the test I want you to do. I can't show you this in the YouTube video for reasons that will make sense in a moment's time. So take a sawtooth wave such as A1 in Serum. So take a Serum, an A1 sawtooth wave, and have a 16-bar long MIDI note. So it's a static sawtooth wave. Play that and then move your head around the room. So you play it through studio monitors or even just laptop. Well, they're probably better with studio monitors. And move your head around the room. Hold your head still. Hear how the waveform is static, and then move your head. And notice how as you're moving your head, the sound changes. So you can keep your head still, move it forward, keep it still again, move it back or sideways, keep it still again. And notice how when you move your head, the sound is changing. If you keep your head still, it sounds stationary. That's because the room affects what you're hearing. When the sound bounces around the room, and this works for higher frequencies as well, you're effectively hearing comb filtering. That's what comb filtering is. Comb filtering is delay, essentially. So if the sound hits your ear, but also bounces off that wall, that's a comb filter. But it's not just bouncing off that wall, it's bouncing off there, it's bouncing off there, it's bouncing off there. So you're not just hearing even a comb delay, you're hearing this crazy interactive space, effectively. Even if you can't hear it as an echo, the room is changing the sound. That's why some rooms sound bright, some sound dull, some sound echoey, some sound not echoey. And there's just no way to isolate the room from what you're hearing. And so if you're trying to hear the cleanest representation of the sound, just the purest representation of what you're hearing, maybe in an unexciting way, you need to use headphones. However, that's not to discount the value of these. Let me explain. In fact, I wrote down the logical order to tell you things. Make sure. Boing. Okay, yes, we're doing things in the correct order. So therefore, when I'm doing critical mixing, mastering, and sound design, when I need to hear the sound as perfectly, as clean as possible, I will always use headphones. However, for songwriting, I much prefer to use monitors, as it's fundamentally not nice to have something on your head. Not to mention, it's just not that inspiring. It's not that exciting. When I'm hearing a clean and flat representation of the sound with headphones, it's just not that inspiring. It's not that exciting. And therefore, it can be hard to get creative. It can be hard to put myself in the position of the end user. I mean, yes, I can mentally translate. So if I'm hearing something unexciting, but I'm hearing it with headphones, I can imagine how that will work, say, through a big speaker system or something like that. But it can be hard to do that. It's like I'm constantly, if I'm writing music with headphones, it's like I'm constantly having to translate what I'm hearing. I'm hearing something and I'm having to mentally translate to what I know it will do through big speakers or exciting speakers. So not even just studio monitors, but say like a club speaker system or a festival speaker system or a car speaker system. I'm having to do this translation, and that it can get in the way of creativity, and it's just fundamentally not that inspiring. So I prefer to do songwriting and just like sketching out of ideas and even basic mixing and mastering through studio monitors. I can move around the room, I can stand up, I can bounce about. Not to mention, most people hear music, or that's not actually true, but at least quite a lot of people hear music through speakers. Yes, let's say half of people listen on headphones, but half of people listen on speakers. Not studio monitors, remember, but at least speakers in a room. So it's important to feel how the listener may be feeling the music. Therefore, and here's the insight here, compared to these monitors, I can do more songwriting on these because these are better. These are showing me more details. It's showing me a better representation of the sound than the tannoys. And so I can spend more time writing music on monitors before having to swap to headphones compared to the cheaper monitors. I'll say it again, it's one of the important points here. Having better studio monitors means I can spend more time writing music with monitors before I eventually have to swap to headphones to check everything's working. Which brings me on to another point. The biggest studio monitors, such as these, represent more low frequencies. So I can't remember the exact frequency, but these roll off pretty substantially around maybe 50 hertz or so. So yes, the tannoys can kind of play frequencies a bit below 50, but below 50, 55 hertz, the low end just rolls off in a way that's a bit problematic. Remember, generally speaking, we use frequencies down to say, are we still recording? Yes. Generally, we use frequencies down to say 40 hertz approximately, let's say 40 hertz. And so if these roll off below 50, 55 hertz, then there's an entire band of sub-frequencies that I just can't hear properly through these monitors. I mean, yes, they're kind of there, but they're a bit too quiet. And if I use, say, a 38 hertz thing or a 41 hertz sub-bass, you almost can't hear it at all with these studio monitors. And that makes songwriting with them very difficult. I mean, yes, you can write like chords and vocals and leads and stuff, anything higher than, say, 55 hertz, fine. But anything needing the low end, such as a kick or a bass or even a chord sometimes, you can't really do with these. However, these go right down to those frequencies. They won't go down to 35, 32 hertz. And yes, you still don't want to mix low end, and they're not a replacement for a subwoofer necessarily, but at least you can hear frequencies down to 40 hertz or so. Yeah, I mean, yes, it starts to roll off below 40, let's say 44 hertz, for example. I mean, the exact number's not important, but yes, it starts to roll off when you go really low, but you can do more songwriting with these because you can hear more bass. You can hear more bass with these compared to these, and that means I can do more songwriting with the studio monitors before having to swap to headphones. And it means I can at least try songwriting with the kicks as my default. For example, I would never try choosing a kick with these ever, because remember, the kicks will extremely commonly use frequencies below 55 hertz. So I would never try choosing a kick with monitors. I would choose with headphones and then check with those tannoys. Whereas on these, if the mood's right, I can at least start choosing kicks with the monitors. I mean, yes, because of the room and stuff, I would never come close to actually choosing a kick purely with monitors, but I can at least start the process in a way I couldn't with these, because these go down to a low frequency. Remembering that I would always have to then double check on headphones anyway. So it's a luxury to have these. You don't need them, but it is nice. Fundamentally, I find them inspiring, and that's kind of the point. The way I like to think about this is, for the most detailed critical sound design work, there's no replacement for headphones. The headphones will always tell you more information. You'll hear less impact from the room. Headphones will always give you the least biased information. There's no replacement for that. And that's just a thing that I can't overemphasize the point of. The more time I can spend producing before headphones, the better. And that shouldn't be discounted, because getting inspired, feeling creative, and getting in the same mindset as the end user is critical. It's important. I mean, you can mentally translate from headphones, but it gets in the way of creativity, and it makes it harder to get into that mode, get into that sort of mindset of the end user, especially for dance music. I mean, we're making, for the most part anyway, dance music designed to be played loud, where people are moving about and getting excited. And so it's great to be able to do more of this with studio monitors. And as I say, these are the Adam A7Xs, are generally considered industry standard. They're a safe bet. They've been tried and tested. They've been around for a few years now. They've won all the awards pretty much. So you just can't go wrong with them. And that's why I chose them. That's why I think, for the most part anyway, they're the best. Well, not even for the most part anyway. I think they're the best studio monitors for around $1,000, £1,000. And they have my name on it. And there we have it, a sort of review / recommendation / knowledge insights about studio monitors, why I got them, things to consider, etc. Hopefully you learned something. My name is Multiplier. I shall catch you guys on the flippity flip.